Hey everyone, my name is Drew. Welcome to Novelitic. Today I'm going to take you through part 1 of my April wrap-up. In the month of April, I read a total of 16 books. The reason why this video is a part 1 is because I am going to do a totally separate wrap-up for my poetry books that I read in April. And in this video, I just want to focus more on the novels that I read. If you didn't know, last month was National Poetry Month, so of course I have to do a dedicated video for that. But for today, let's go through just my overall stats. So I read a total of 16 books, 6 of which were poetry and 10 of which were not poetry. And I'm going to be focusing on those 10. I had a total of 2 5 stars, 4 4 stars, 2 3 stars, and 2 that were not rated. And those were nonfiction, so pretty good reading month, no 1 or 2 stars. In terms of genre, I read 3 contemporaries, 1 sci-fi, 1 dystopian, 2 nonfiction, 2 fantasies, and 1 classic. So the first book that I read that was the highest rated was A Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. Now this is a contemporary novel that is written in verse, and it follows a teenage boy who wants to avenge his brother. His brother was unfortunately killed. He was shot, and our narrator believes he knows who did it, and he wants to seek revenge. He wants to avenge his brother. This novel was hands down expertly crafted. It got across like really important themes of revenge and how do we grieve our loved ones when if something negative happens to them. And it was so good. It was very reminiscent of Tags by Walter Dean Myers, which if you haven't read that, you totally should. It's a short play, like 20 pages. I believe it's available on or in the We Need Diverse Books Fresh Ink. I would definitely read the 2 of them together. But oh, it was so good. And that ending, the ending, I have so many thoughts. I haven't even fully developed my thoughts, and I read this at the beginning of April. It was just very good. It just spanned a total of 60 seconds, and it's only, the majority of the book is only in this elevator ride down, and just, oh, it's just so good. I would absolutely recommend this, and this is one that I gave 5 stars. My second highest rated book of April, however, despite that, I think it was my favorite book of the month because it resonated with me the most and pulled out the biggest emotional impact, and that is This Is How We Lose the Time War. The language was so lyrical. I loved the epistolary format that goes between red and blue. Like, that was just perfect the way that was. I guess the only way I can describe it without giving anything away is that it is a genre-bending cacophony of words whose dissonance creates like this masterful symphony. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, it was weird but awesome, and it made sense despite its weirdness, and the intricacies of the language was just so powerful. And unbeknownst to me, like, it was kind of a romance. Like, even though it's considered sci-fi dystopian, there was hints of romance, there was hints of poetry. Like, it just a conglomerate of so many different things, and it was just so impactful in a strange way. This is a book that I want to revisit again. I read it via ebook from my library, and this is one I definitely want to get my own copy. I want to annotate it. I want to annotate the heck out of it. But it was just so good. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. If you're someone who loves lyrical language in their books, this is definitely one that you should pick up. And if you couldn't tell, it got 5 stars. The next book I read is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. I apologize that I don't have a lot of the physical copies. I realized a lot of these I brought back to school, so I don't have them with me because I want my students to read them too. But Pet was a sci-fi dystopian middle grade, or YA, I feel like it could be either, that follows a girl who summons a monster on accident in a world that completely eradicated evil. And this book was just, it was very entertaining. It was a quick read. I love that it's a narrative that is from the perspective of a main trans character, but it's not a coming out story. And it's not about their gender exploration. It's not about the romance, which we all know we need more of those in the universe. It was just really good. I had some questions, and I think part of this was because when I initially read the synopsis, I kind of had it in my mind, and I don't know if it was because of the blurb or if it was because of the cover that I had, that I thought it was going to be something similar to The Giver in a way, like not the same obviously, but similar vibes, and it totally didn't. So I don't know if that sort of affected my reading experience, but it was very good. It covers some pretty like hard-hitting topics for sure. Like the last 30 pages, like what the fuck? I had a lot of questions, and I think it's one of those books that you can read it any way you want. Like you can take whatever you want from it. It's very open. But then the first chapter, the very first chapter of the book is a totally different what the f. Like it was so good. I want to just reread the first chapter over and over again. The language was beautiful. It was very straightforward. Everything was there for a reason. Like, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be Edgar Allan Poe, but I feel like if Edgar Allan Poe were to read that today, maybe, like, I feel like he would be like, that's the unity of effect right there. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't assume these things, but that's in my mind what I picture as the unity of effect. The following 2 books I read for my school's graduate book club. Now, Pet was also for the graduate book club as well, but I want to put these 2 together because there's something about them that seem very similar, and that is Darius the Great is Not Okay and Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. Now these are 2 YA LGBTQ+ contemporary novels centering on 2 cis males, and I love them both. I thought they were very good, both for different reasons. The Aristotle and Dante book, beautiful lyrical writing, which the author is, I believe they are a poet as well, so it makes sense. It was very hazy and very reminiscent of the 80s. And then Darius the Great, although a little bit more straightforward in its language, was also very hard-hitting. So in Darius the Great is Not Okay, we follow a Persian American teen who doesn't quite fit in at high school. He doesn't always feel like he fits in with his family either. Towards the beginning of the book, he goes and visits his family in Iran, and it explores his friendship with a local boy there, as well as how he navigates things with his family in Iran and what it means to be a man and whatnot. And it was a really good job of, like, I really enjoyed the overall narrative itself, and I'm excited for the next book. Actually, both these books have books coming out soon. I have to get on that. But then Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe follows Aristotle and Dante and their friendship and like that difficulty, but also about not quite fitting in with their family, or even just, again, growing up. The thing that took away from my enjoyment of both of these novels was that the 2 friends, so Dante and, oh my gosh, I need to look up who this other friend is, Scribd. So Scribd and Dante are almost like the male equivalent of a manic pixie dream girl. Like the growth of the protagonists in both books was dependent upon these 2 side characters. Like if they weren't there, there would be no growth. So that was a little bit like, for me. But other than that, I really enjoyed both of these books. They both received 4 stars. The next 2 books I read with my 7th graders and my 9th graders, and that was The Lightning Thief by Riordan and Lord of the Flies by William Golding. The Lightning Thief, if you don't know, is about Percy Jackson and demigods, and basically how, you know, the gods almost start World War III. So basically in this, Zeus's lightning bolt is stolen, and somehow this gets pinned on Percy, who has no idea. Like, he didn't even know that the Greek gods were like, that existed, or this world existed. So basically it's about him and his 2 sidekicks, Annabeth and Grover, whom go on a quest to find the lightning bolt. This is a reread for me. I always enjoy it. I'm actually super excited for the TV show that's coming out, because we all know, like, even though I enjoyed the movie, like, I love Logan Lerman, they totally destroyed the premise of the book. Lord of the Flies is about a bunch of boys who are stranded on an island after a plane crash, after being evacuated from England in World War II. And this was also a reread for me, and I never actually read it in school. I read it on my own, and I didn't really care for it, like, and I wasn't really, like, I didn't get the hype. Rereading it now and looking at it from a more critical lens, or maybe because I'm older, I enjoyed it much more. I rated it 3 stars. I've been thinking long and hard about it, and I think that rating might go up. I need to redo my rating for that. I've really sat on my thoughts for a while, and I think a lot of my opinions have changed and shifted even within this like couple week period. I'm curious to see what that will be. For the Read, Rate, Review book club, which I will link their Twitter down below, the group book was Fireheart Tiger, and this is a novella. It follows the daughter of the Empress who has like these visions of fire. Like, she knows how to summon fire, but it's not totally like because of her. It's like hard to explain. But also the romance that she has with another political faction. And I don't want to go into too much because it's a novella. It was like 100 pages. But it's fantasy, and overall enjoyment was good. I have some questions. There were a lot of gaps, which I understand because it was a novella, but I think there needed to either be more or there needs to be a companion. But overall, it received 3 stars. The final 2 books that I read were nonfiction, the first being my grad school reading, which was Writing Instruction in the Culturally Relevant Classroom. So this semester I've been taking teaching, reading, writing, and literature and whatnot, and a lot of it focuses on being civically engaged and how are we culturally relevant in terms of our teaching. How do we embody our students' cultures, their personalities and whatnot. And I don't rate my nonfiction because, again, I don't know how to rate it properly, but I thought this was, if you're a teacher or if you're an educator in any way, pick this book up. It was a quick read, and it is really intriguing, the ideas that it gives to have a culturally relevant or culturally sustaining classroom. Really good. And then the final book was How Not to Die, and I listened to this audibly through my library. I find food science interesting. I don't necessarily follow it. Oops. But again, I find it fascinating. I find the science behind it fascinating. I should probably listen to it more, but this specifically talks about basically ways to sustain yourself with nutrient-dense foods and how basically different things interact, like your gut and your brain, and how certain foods bring out certain genetics and or hinder certain genetics. I don't know, I just find it fascinating. If you're interested in nutritional science, I suppose that's what it is, you should give it a go. Alright, and that is it for my non-poetry wrap-up. So my April wrap-up part 1. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. Until next time, bye!